This is the brand new Honor Magic 7 Pro, and I don't know what to say to you guys, but I think 2025 is just going to be really hard to pick a new phone because all the phones that are coming out are actually really good. This one happens to be good too, but it's not perfect, and I'll talk about the things I don't like in a second. But this thing is not cheap. We're talking about 1,300 euros, not available here in Canada or even the USA. And the one thing that I think this device really excels at is offering a very interesting design. Like, this is the shadow gray color. You can get it in two other colors besides this one, but I really dig this one because depending on how the light reflects off the phone, you get different patterns. You know, if I tilt the phone this way, you can see the shadow gray going through. If I tilt the phone this way, it just looks like a regular silver back. It's very, very interesting. Not important if you're gonna slap a case on this, but if you are rocking this without one, I think it looks awesome. Massive camera bump on the top to house that 200 megapixel camera. It's easier to hold than, let's say, the OnePlus Open, where the phone feels significantly shorter, but yes, your grip is going to be below the camera, which makes the phone feel a bit top heavy when you're holding the phone. You have a glass back, a crystal shield front, aluminum sides, you have your buttons. This one has a little red indicator on it to let you know that this is the power button. Volume rocker, they feel super clicky. Very easy to hold the phone, a little bit slippery just because the edges are curved, and you guys know how I feel about curved edges. I bring it up all the time. I think they look great, but again, it takes away from the typing experience. I'd rather a flat display for that. The other thing to take into consideration is the technology inside of here. So unlike other Android phones that just have like your traditional camera cutout in the front for your front-facing camera, this one has another scanner, 3D scanner for your face. So not only is it more secure, but it works better in certain conditions, whereas the regular cutout really falls short if you're trying to use your face to log in the dark. This one works perfectly in the dark. It doesn't matter if it's dark, light, bright. I can point this at my face. Just like an iPhone, it will automatically unlock and get you in. And if you don't want to use your face to log in, you totally don't have to. There's an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner here, which is also insanely quick to get in to your device. Now, a little bit of a copy on the iPhone here. This little top island, whatever you want to call it, also has things that basically go into it. If you basically go back to the home screen. So if you're listening to music, it will pop around the dynamic island or whatever Honor calls it, and then you can tap to get back into the app you're using or bring up a little widget if you want to change the song or increase the volume. The one thing that I really like about this phone is the display. This display is gorgeous. We're talking about a 5,000 nit peak brightness display. That's ridiculously bright. If you're watching HDR content, it's going to go up to 1,600 nits. Obviously, it's not going to hit 5,000 nits all over the screen. It's just going to be in little pockets depending on what you're watching or doing. But yeah, this display is stunning. Other things I like are the fact that the speakers on this are some of the best speakers I've heard on a smartphone. Now, I'm gonna compare it to the iPhone. I do find the iPhone seems to be a bit more balanced, but this just has a bit of anger to it, which I appreciate. Now, battery life on this is amazing. We're talking about a 50 to 70-ish milliamp hour battery. It's using the new silicon carbon battery technology that you're seeing pop up on all these Chinese phones. And it's for a good reason, because not only does it make the battery thinner, you can also pack more into that battery, so you get better battery life. This thing is really good. I can easily use this phone for 2 days without having to charge. And you pair that with 100-watt wire charging, 80-watt wireless charging. Obviously, if you have a charger that supports that, plus 5-watt reverse charging, you have a phone that will never give you battery anxiety. As for the front-facing camera, it is 50 megapixels, and I compared it to the iPhone to give you guys some context. I still prefer the look on the iPhone. I do find that I'm a little bit too yellow with this Honor phone. All right, another freezing day here in Canada. Front-facing cameras on the iPhone 15 Pro Max versus the Honor Magic 7 Pro. You guys let me know which one looks better. I wish the day was a little bit more sunnier so you can see how it handles exposure, but this is the sunniest we're gonna get for the next week, so this is the best I can do. But yeah, you guys let me know how it looks and how do the microphones sound. But performance on this has been fantastic, as it should be. These new Snapdragon 8 Elite processors are incredible. It performs exactly where there should be. There's a performance mode if you want to like push the processor a little bit harder. Good thing this phone doesn't get really hot. Like I was gaming on this for a little while. It did get warm, but it doesn't get super hot compared to other devices I've tested more recently. Now, the software experience is obviously going to be subjective for a lot of people. I feel like Magic OS 9 is not the worst software experience I've used. I do prefer Magic OS on a regular phone compared to Honor's foldable phones. I feel like on this more condensed screen, it does look a little bit better. And there's some functionality in here that I do appreciate. So on most phones, they have kind of like a quick swipe from the left and right-hand side if you want to access a menu. Now, on most phones, you just do it once, right? And it comes on the screen immediately, okay? Which sometimes can give you errors. Like if you're just like tapping on the screen or you swipe the wrong way, it'll automatically pop up sometimes when you don't want it to, or you have to hit a certain location. Honor's version is a little bit more intuitive. Doesn't matter where you place your finger on the screen. You have to hold it down, okay? And it gives you this cool animation, and then you kind of swipe again, then it pops out. This reduces errors when you're touching the sides of the screen. I just feel like it's a more intuitive way to access that menu. Now, unlike the OnePlus device, there's not a lot of AI features that pop up in this quick launch menu. It does remember the last apps you used, but it's not going to give you AI recommendations. Now, there is obviously AI baked into this phone. Like if I long press the power button, Gemini is going to pop up. Of course, Honor is doing their own things with kind of like blur removal and all that kind of stuff you'd find in the camera, but basically it's the same stuff you'd find on most other phones. Also, for those of you out there who are very sensitive to PWM flicker, they have a 4320 Hz ultra high frequency PWM dimming. Now, most devices with an OLED display, if you keep the brightness above 50%, you're never going to notice PWM flicker, but sometimes when we're in the dark, the display automatically lowers that brightness, and potentially for some phones with OLED displays, PWM flicker kicks in. So if you're sensitive to that, this has a way to kind of circumvent it. Now we got to talk about the camera. This is the area where it kind of fell apart. Like it is rocking a 50 megapixel wide lens. You have a 200 megapixel 3x optical zoom, and then you have a 50 megapixel ultra wide lens. Now the ultra wide and the regular wide lens are kind of inconsistent and had a couple of problems. So for example, I took this phone to Vegas. I'm using the iPhone 16 Pro Max as context, and it had troubles picking up details when you were zooming in. Like if you were to look at these photos together, there's this one situation. I was in the lobby of the hotel. I took a picture of the statue. If you look behind it, the iPhone was able to pick up the little triangles on the glass, whereas this Honor phone had a tough time. If you go outdoors in bright sunlight, this phone has problems with proper exposure. Like I took a picture of this lion statue and there's no shadows on it. Like they're completely gone. It looks overexposed and not acceptable. Whereas the iPhone was able to capture those shadows and make the phone look more realistic. And this is the thing outdoors, like you want in bright sunlight, the exposure to be proper. Now didn't happen all the time. It wasn't every single shot this happened, but it was enough for me to be like, okay, you know what? I can't trust this camera in these certain situations. Now, obviously, if you're taking photos on a cloudy day like I did here, the clouds become a natural diffuser. And most expensive phones, or phones in general, take good pictures when the light is being diffused through the clouds. So there's really no complaints. I will say though, in terms of coloring, there's a little bit more of a yellow or reddish tinge to the Honor pictures compared to the iPhone. The other thing to take into consideration is that the zoom lens is where this phone really excels, okay? So if you're zooming past 6 times, for example, destroys the iPhone. Like way better of a job because you have that bigger sensor, that higher megapixel sensor to crop in and give you better photos overall. The photos just look a lot sharper, more detailed. You should also take into consideration that there's no 4K 120 video at all. There's no 8K video recording like you get on most Android smartphones right now, but it does take really good photos at night. In fact, I didn't see a lot of differences between the iPhone and the Honor phone in terms of nighttime photography. They both did a really good job, and sometimes the iPhone looked a little bit better, and there were other times where the Honor looked a little bit better. I also shot a 4K 30 video at night with both phones, and they both look really good. But when it comes to daytime video, the iPhone obviously excels. I found that the coloring on the Honor phone was a little bit too red. The trees were not the proper colors, and it just wasn't as sharp as the video that I was seeing from the 16 Pro Max. So here's the bottom line. The Honor Magic 7 Pro is a fantastic phone. I think the one area where it needs a little bit of tweaking is the camera. Now the camera on this is obviously better than the OnePlus 13, but there's a lot of competition coming out. Like, this is only the first batch of phones coming out in 2025. Like, it's literally still January. We got the Galaxy coming out and so many more phones coming out in the next few months. My suggestion to you is, if you don't care about the camera, but you like Honor software and all that kind of stuff, you'll love this thing. Like, it's a really good phone. But if you really care about the camera, I feel like you should wait a little bit longer to see how the competition is going to play out, because we have a lot more phones coming in the near future. I should also say you're gonna get about 5 years of updates or Android updates on this phone. So still really good, not as good as, let's say, the Pixel or Galaxy phones where you're getting 7, but 5 years is still more than acceptable. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.